Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Wednesday evening. We're live, we're national, and our phone number, if you want to join us throughout the evening, we'll be grabbing a couple of calls. Of course, in the third hour of the show, it's a free-for-all on the calls. You want to join us for Open Phone America, feel free. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And Kamala Harris, she's finally sitting down for an interview at CNN. That's going to be tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. I can't wait to break it down and bring you some clips of that and give you my thoughts on it. The fact that it's pre-taped and she's doing it with Tim Walz, I find very interesting. You know, again, I get it. They believe in the ticket. They're all about the ticket, per se. You know, so they want to do their first interview together as a ticket. But I think the American people, you would think, now forget what the American people for a second. You would think, if you were running for president, I know I would want my name up in lights everywhere, right? And it would be, you know, Valdez and then the other guy. Because ultimately, the other guy, the other person, they're not really who people vote for, right? Nobody goes, oh my gosh, I'm voting for Kamala because I love Tim Walz. Nobody's saying, oh my gosh, it's, you know, I'm going to vote for Trump, but it's J.D. Vance that I absolutely love this guy. Nobody's saying that. And nobody's ever said it because that's not how it works. People vote for the candidate and their running mate. They pick a partner to help them get through the finish line. You know this. So I just find it so interesting that she wants her you know, coming out the gate, kicking down the door with good old Tiananmen Tim. Tiananmen Tim and Kamala Harris are going to do their tag team interview. And, of course, this guy's a sitting governor. He's way better at this than she is, right? He's got people to actually respond to. He's an executive. She's never been an executive. I mean, I guess being the attorney general is being an executive chief law enforcement officer, and you run the State Department of Justice. But it's not quite the same because I guess you get a chief of staff. And Kamala Harris doesn't strike me as a strong manager, as a strong leader. She just doesn't, just from a business perspective. Tim Walz might be. I don't know. I mean, he's also off the wall in his leftism, but that doesn't mean that he's a bad manager per se. Maybe he is. I don't know. But typically governors have a fundamental understanding of how to run things. Mayors too, right? They have to deal with snow removal, storms, just things in general that you have to do. Now, we saw how he managed the George Floyd riots, obviously a disaster. However, he did this intentionally, right? This was his goal. Just like David Dinkins let New York City burn to the ground during the Crown Heights riots. And there was a name for it. I think it was called venting, if I'm not mistaken. I believe they called it venting or something similar to that, some sort of euphemism saying, no, let them burn the cars, let them break all the windows, let them destroy the property, let them loot. They got to get it out of their system, right? They call it venting. And then when this venting process or some similar word, when that process is over, then it's okay. Then it's okay to say, all right, look, we understand you're impassioned about this and you're angry, but it's time for us to come together. It's time to lower the temperature, dial back the volume, right? Remember when Joe El Baboso Biden used to say that? That's why we needed to get rid of Trump and put him in office. What a disaster that was. Anyway, so we got these two are preparing to do their interview, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's probably going to be a ratings success. Everybody in America wants to know what they have to say with someone asking them a question. Now, in a taped sit-down interview, I can only imagine what they were doing with what's his name, Biden, right? Do you remember the radio host that got fired because they leaked the fact that they were told what to do? or the Sage Steele. She also said that she was told what to ask, how to ask, when to ask when she interviewed Biden. She also is no longer with that organization. Now she's independent, doing her own thing and doing some great work. But fascinating to me. So, I figured Dana Bash is going to be the one saying, all right, Kamala, what do you want me to ask you? What do you want me to say? And I'm looking forward to these answers. And, of course, there'll be at least two curveball difficult answers, which she probably will share with them ahead of time. They'll say, listen, at some point, for the sake of credibility, I'm going to ask you a couple of tough questions. And, this is what they're going to be. Just heads up. Or maybe Tiananmen Tim will step in and take care of that. I don't know. I have no idea. But I do know that Kamala Harris is being mocked for being too scared to do this interview without Tim Walz. You know what else she's scared of? Debating Donald Trump. That's why she wouldn't do the Fox News debate. I guess she's afraid of a moderator or a panel of moderators that are, typically taking exception to her leftist policies. And she doesn't want to go into unfriendly territory. Yet she says, I'm going to be a president for all Americans. But when Trump says he's going to be a president for all Americans, he sits down with CNN, right? He sits down with the National Association of Black Journalists. He goes right into the lion's den, knowing that they're not going to like him, but he goes in anyway. He'll call them out, but he goes in. So what is the story here, right? What is the big deal? Why is she afraid? Is it really fear? Is it that she doesn't feel prepared? Is it that she feels I'm a lot safer if I just don't say anything? Because, that's another incumbent move, right? Some incumbents will just, for what? What am I going to do a debate for? I'm already the incumbent. And for all intent and purpose, I think she is running as an outsider, pretending Trump is the incumbent. And he's doing the same thing. Just the difference is she is the incumbent. She is the Harris and the Biden-Harris administration. So I find that part very, very interesting. Let me see. There was something else I wanted to note with you all tonight. This is it right here. No, that's not it. Anyway, I want to continue with what I was talking about here. J.D. Vance, he's getting blasted by some of the people on the left saying, go to hell to Kamala Harris. And listen, if I had to run against her and she was dodging, her team was dodging everything and saying no, only agreeing to one debate, what are you going to do? I'd say it too. I'd get mad and say something slick. I'm pretty sure I would. Anyway, I also want to get to this story. Last week, I played a story for you out of Colorado. I think it was Aurora, Colorado. And these gang members from this Venezuelan gang that used to run the prisons in Venezuela, now they are here in Colorado. And they were running havoc in New York last summer, and then they started to make their way to Miami. Now it looks like they've ended up in Colorado. They're called El Tren de Aragua. And this gang, they've taken over a big apartment building. And I saw some video of this today. This is like some third world stuff. These guys are masked up, which, I've seen. But they've got big machine guns, What would the left call them? Military-styled weapons. They're likely AR-15s. But again, they could be AK-47. These are gangsters. So it doesn't, laws don't really stop them. They probably do have fully automatic weapons. But these guys were armed to the teeth, and they were ready to go. Knocking on doors. I don't know what they were collecting, rent, protection money, what or who. I don't know what they're doing in this building, but they've taken the building over. They've thrown people out, and they've taken their apartments, and they've taken some of the furniture, and it's just piling up. I saw, looked like it was 10 feet high, this pile of garbage filled with like couches and beds and things like that. The things that are going on, you think, are there no police? Is there no SWAT team? No, you know what they have? Something called Jared Polis. Yes, Jared Polis is a left-wing politician that has, not single-handedly, but was definitely one of what they call the four horsemen of the Blueprint, a book that explained how they turned once red Colorado into a blue state. It took them 20 years to do it, and now look how red it is, where you literally have illegal aliens there taking over. It's just crazy to see what's happened. Crazy. And this is part of the problem. when you teach people to not have respect, they're not going to have respect. And if we don't respect our own borders, they're not going to respect our country. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about election integrity and so much more tonight. I want you to keep it locked right here. I've got former Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security, Ken Cucinelli. He's going to join us to talk about election integrity efforts and how the 2024 election is shaping up to be safer than the last one. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, Democrats in Georgia are seeking legal action against the state election board. Democratic organizations, including the Democratic National Committee and the Democratic Party of Georgia, are filing this lawsuit. The suit claims the board tried to upend the required process for certifying election results. Critics of the board's new rules say it benefits people who try challenging the election results. The Democrats claim they want to prevent chaos in the November election. The state already has a protocol established for election contests, which is done outside of the certification process. But now the organizations are concerned a reasonable inquiry could delay the certification under these new rules.
That is a report from 13 WMAZ. Democrats, Mark Elias, and the rest of their lawfare band of merry men are always at it, trying to make sure they can rig the next election. It's what they do. This is what they believe in. A couple of weeks ago, we had Michael Whatley, co-chair of the Republican National Committee, on to announce that they'd reached 100,000 new lawyer volunteers to put together this little legal army of their own to prevent this stuff and to work on it. And there's other organizations out there that are hitting it very hard. One of those organizations is headed up by the former Deputy Secretary for Homeland Security in the Trump administration, Ken Cucinelli. He's national chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative, and he's here with us now. Ken Cucinelli, welcome back, brother.
Good to be with you.
So let's talk about this. We've got these lawsuits going on in Georgia. Explain a little bit about what's going on and let us know if this is preparing to be the safest election ever or a repeat of 2020.
Yeah, I would give us as a country a D on 2020, and we're probably up to around a C+, B-. We have a long way to go. We have a lot of states that don't use voter ID. The Democrats are still do exactly what you're seeing in Georgia. They litigate anything that could provide security or transparency or consistency. Basic steps like the recent rule passed by the election board of Georgia that did nothing more than implement an already existing law in Georgia. They didn't do anything new. They just told county boards that they actually had to take steps in the precinct to implement the law. Most people in Georgia probably thought this was all already happening, because all we're talking about here is making sure that the number of voters matches the number of ballots. Sounds like what you'd
Simple
expect
math
to be happening, doesn't it?
Right. Why if it's that simple and that innocuous, why are they pushing back against this?
That's a really good question. Why would anybody want to let an inaccurate count go forward? Well, maybe because you think you have a better shot of winning that way. Obviously, no votes have been cast in this election. This isn't about a particular campaign's advantage. After the election, every fight is about gaining advantage for their candidate. Right now, this is about the process, and it's important that the process be set before votes start to be cast and that it not change. And that's what the election board is doing, is putting these processes in place. And the rule they put in place says if there are more ballots than voters, and there's no legitimate legal way for that to happen, this is kindergarten math, folks. If there are more ballots than voters, that is a discrepancy and a palpable error, as the language in the statute, and it's the language in the rule, exactly the same, and that they're to figure out the mistake. Usually the mistake, by the way, is double counting of ballots. And
so, I mean, that
can
sounds like
happen
fraud.
just as well, if it's intentional, it is. If it's happening in a Democrat-intensive area like Atlanta, then, much like Zuckerbucks was spent overwhelmingly in Democrat areas to turn out Democrat votes, and it did. If you make that kind of an error, oh, whoops, we counted this precinct twice. Well, there are precincts are going to be won by the Republican, and there are precincts are going to be won by the Democrat. So that what might be a innocent mistake in general might not be so innocent in those areas because it could be quite intentional. Well, the rule the state election board put in place catches that right in the precinct and simply has them fix it before they move the ballots on to the county level. Again, common sense. And the Democrats fight common sense like crazy. And it really makes you wonder, why? Why do they want a polluted system? Now, they do have an advantage in litigation, and all election fights are litigated. But you'll remember in 2020, Georgia never appointed a judge. They never appointed a judge to hear the main election contest.
Right. They just rejected these like out of hand and didn't take these cases.
Well, not even that. I mean, there was a lawsuit filed, and they're supposed to be expedited, and Georgia never appointed a judge. And so December 14th rolled by when the Electoral College met, no judge appointed. January 6th rolled by when Congress met, no judge appointed. That's expedited in Georgia, apparently. So that was the judicial system putting its thumb on the scale. Well, you don't need the judicial system if the count is correct coming out of the precinct, and that's what the state election board rule will make sure of.
Wow. Well, Ken Cucinelli, I want you to stick with me because I want to continue to get to the bottom of this, not only in Georgia, but get your thoughts of what's going on across the country. I also want to get a quick take from you on immigration as well. Folks, we're on with Ken Cucinelli. You might remember him. He's been making headlines for years. He used to be the Attorney General in Virginia, and then he was the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security during the Trump years. And now he's National Chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative, and he's our guest. We're coming right back with him momentarily, plus your calls coming up in about 20 minutes. 833-482-5337 is the phone number for that, 833-482-5337. And what I find interesting here is we've got these states that have made some progress, like Wisconsin, some minimal progress in Pennsylvania, and then you see the progress kind of, two steps forward, one step back, or maybe vice versa in Georgia. So, Ken Cucinelli, I want you to pick up with me when we come back right on that note. And anybody that's listening, if you missed any of our interviews from the week, go to richvaldez.com, Rich Valdez with an S, by the way, and you could listen, download, share, subscribe. You can do anything. It's absolutely free. Go to the website and enjoy it. Folks, we're coming right back with Ken Cucinelli, National Chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative, with me, Rich Valdez. Don't go anywhere.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Are you prepared that this election could end up before the Supreme Court? as prepared as anyone can be. Let me ask you, are you prepared for all of the news cycles that you're getting as a result of this election?
No.
No, exactly. I mean, I think there are legal issues that arise out of the political process. And so the Supreme Court has to be prepared to respond if that should be necessary.
That is Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson on CBS this morning today. And I don't let me take this back. I don't usually see, or I rarely see, a Supreme Court justice, other than maybe promoting a book over the years, doing these types of sit-down interviews. But they have happened on occasion, and I just find it interesting that we're seeing that now. But Justice Jackson didn't stop there, talking about, keeping the election safe for everyone. From her perspective here, responding to it, as she said. She also had an interaction here with Norah O'Donnell regarding the Trump immunity case, which was the topic of discussion yesterday when there was another superseding indictment against Trump. Listen to this.
In your dissent, you wrote that the court declared for the first time in history that the most powerful official in the United States can, under circumstances yet to be fully determined, become a law unto himself. It sounds like a warning.
Well, I mean, that was my view of what the court determined.
You were concerned about broad immunity.
I was concerned about a system that appeared to provide immunity for one individual under one set of circumstances, when we have a criminal justice system that had ordinarily treated everyone the same.
So this is interesting to me. It almost sounds, I think it exactly sounds like she's making up her mind without taking the law into consideration. And I think this could taint future decisions. But maybe I'm wrong, so I want to bring in the pros. Let's bring back in Ken Cucinelli, former Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security, former Attorney General in the state of Virginia, and, of course, the national chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative. Ken Cucinelli, what do you make of her statements and how it potentially relates with the superseding indictment that was filed yesterday?
Well, her willingness to talk about a live legal matter like that, because it isn't over, of course, shows an extraordinary level of disrespect for the court as an institution. It is pathetic to see a Supreme Court justice on a morning show talking about her own recent rulings and her dissent as part of the ruling. That is outrageous. You've never seen a prior justice do something so casual. Now, that doesn't mean, Ruth Bader Ginsburg didn't make rather politically sensitive comments both about the Constitution and our elections. But here you have the newest justice, frankly, who was not thought of as a high-quality choice, who the president himself put major parameters around who he would choose from. And so you end up with the top of a small pool. And she starts behaving like this. It really undermines the credibility of the Supreme Court. And maybe that's part of her goal. Maybe she's willing to sacrifice her own professional reputation to achieve that political end, as we watch Democrats on Capitol Hill and now President Biden as well, trashing the Supreme Court, which is for a long time been the most respected, or maybe I should say least disrespected, institution of government that has existed throughout American history. It's really extraordinary to hear this, and sad, frankly. It really is historically just very sad.
Now, Ken Cucinelli, President Trump said that this was a threat to our democracy. The fact that they had already gone through this and now they're bringing this indictment back. If you don't mind, walk us through it, because I thought that was kind of a done deal, but Jack Smith wanted to refile this.
Well, he did, and he certainly hurried about it, which is pretty unusual for the Department of Justice, frankly. They They move slowly, and that is a complaint of mine in general, but it makes this stand out for the sort of foaming at the mouth level of zealousness of Jack Smith. Now, I was in front of the original grand jury twice. I was running the Department of Homeland Security on January 6th, so they brought me in. They asked me about 30 minutes of questions about January 6th and about 4 hours of questions. That was on day one, by the way, about the president and interactions with the president and so forth. So they really weren't that interested in January 6th except to get at the president. Mind you, this is a grand jury selected among Washington, D.C. voters. So 90% Democrat. In January 2023, when I was in front of this grand jury, 3/4 of them were still wearing masks out of about 25 people. That tells you a little something. And I got into what amounted to a near shouting match with the prosecutor over their virtual insistence that I agree with them that the legal theory being advanced with the alternate electors, which, by the way, was invented by John F. Kennedy's legal team in 1960 and used successfully, by the way, that was somehow a crime. And I just exploded on her about the notion that you're criminalizing a previously used legitimate legal argument. And we had it out for like 30 minutes in front of the grand jury over this. That was in day two in front of the grand jury because I wouldn't answer questions about what the president had said to me without a court order.
Now, how did you get away with that? And Bannon and Navarro ended up in jail.
Well, I think, were congressional.
Right. So they were held in contempt.
I was in front of a grand jury, and they did go and get a court order. There were a number of other people who did the same thing I did, which was they wouldn't share presidential conversations without a court ruling that it wasn't covered by executive privilege. So they're in a different category. Of course, they're in a category that had never in modern times been prosecuted, to my recollection, and never in the other direction, of course. God forbid we have equal justice before the law. That the superseding indictment 70 or so days before the election, I really plays into and legitimizes President Trump's comments that this is an interference in the election. There's not going to be a trial between now and Election Day, but it certainly will interfere with the defendant campaigning.
Right,
that is
and tainting his name, and making it look like something it isn't.
Absolutely. And, the way other courts are using gag orders on somebody running for president, it is truly the most astonishing attack on democracy that we've seen in our adult lifetimes.
Ken Cucinelli is our guest. He's national chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative and former Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security during the Trump administration, as he alluded to. He was there on January 6th, and former Attorney General of Virginia. We're going to come right back. We're going to continue our discussion with him, and we're also going to get into a little bit of what's going on with immigration. You did a great job. You always kept that at the forefront of everything, honestly, of a lot of your work, always kept illegal immigration at the forefront, and I feel like that's since dissipated, and something we need again. Ken Cucinelli, stick with us. We're coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night, your home for the best election coverage.
A group of migrants tried to board a school bus this morning while it was traveling to a school. The superintendent for the Humul del Zura Union School District informed parents of that incident earlier today. It happened at one of the stops on the school district's bus route that heads to Oak Grove Middle School and Humul Primary. Meanwhile, yesterday afternoon, in a similar area along another route, the superintendent says that a group of migrants tried to stop another bus. Border Patrol, CHP, and the Sheriff's Office have now been informed of these incidents. The superintendent says that for the safety of everyone, if a driver sees a group of migrants at a bus stop, they will drive past it and move on to the next.
Okay, that was a real news report where they said if they see a group of migrants, the school bus driver is going to keep driving because the last one almost got hijacked. Absolute insanity is what we have going on. We've got these people in Aurora, Colorado that have taken over. They believe it's the Tren de Aragua gang, the prison gang from Venezuela that's taken over an apartment building in in Colorado, which might as well be Venezuela. And school buses getting hijacked. Ken Cucinelli, what's your take on the current state of immigration in our country?
Well, it's as bad as it's ever been, and I think the only thing there's bipartisan agreement on is that the immigration system is dysfunctional. But the radical left's idea, including Kamala Harris, border czar Kamala Harris's idea of getting it in order is to open the border. And we've seen the results of that. We've seen that in depressed wages of poor Americans. We've seen it in depressed employment opportunities of poorer Americans. We've seen it in more just raw number of crimes and just an extraordinary nature of crimes. You know, whether it be MS-13 or the Venezuelan gangs, the extreme violence and tactics that they'll engage in is beyond anything we're used to. And look, I got the longest gang sentence in the history of Virginia when I was Attorney General. It was like 237 years. You know, guy's going to come out as dust. And we put a lot of effort into that. And if you think of the map of Virginia, just to use my home state as an example, from Richmond down to the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area is what I would call kind of traditional American gangs, Crips, Bloods, dangerous. And by the way, it was a number of those that I put in prison that one time that I was referring to. And then from Northern Virginia around to the west in the more sparsely populated areas, and then curling around under the south of Richmond, overwhelmingly illegal immigrant gangs operating. MS-13 is the most violent in Virginia. It has been for a long, long time. And a lot of states would tell you the same thing on MS-13, though the Venezuelans look like they're ready to give them a run for their money in that regard. And that leaves a lot of innocent people in its wake. And that doesn't happen without easy illegal immigration. It just doesn't happen. We've made it. We've made this possible for these criminal gangs that operate internationally.
It's a shame. Now, I want to pivot back to our initial conversation, just so the audience has a really good understanding of what the Election Transparency Initiative is, your role as national chairman. And I think everybody here wants to hear you tell us that this is going to be an amazing election. Is that something you're prepared to tell us?
Well, I think it's going to be run better than 2020 by a long shot. In most of the swing states have improved to some degree or another, the major exception in that being Michigan, which has gotten much worse. They're systematically, the Democrats are systematically stripping away all manner of accountability or oversight of the election process. They're getting rid of poll observer rights. They're getting rid of audits for elections. They got rid of voter ID. You know, when ordinary Americans, I don't care what color you are, agree voter ID, to take a simple one, makes perfectly good sense. In fact, Vice President Harris, when she was pressed by that hyper-aggressive network, Black Entertainment Television, conceded that well, you have to be able to show who you are to vote. Well, that's what voter ID is, ma'am. This is the same interview where she famously said rural people are too stupid to figure out how to work a copying machine. So she's all over the map on this, as are her fellow lefties. And by the way, we were talking about the state election board and them being sued in Georgia. Well,
right.
The person doing the suing, leading the suing, is the Harris campaign lawyer.
Oh, really?
So these are not disconnected. Mark Elias is in both places, and he's got two courts that have ruled his behavior unethical, and the left doesn't care about those ethics, do they? No, they don't.
They never do.
No, they don't.
Ken Cucinelli, National Chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative. I want to thank you for being here. Let everybody know how they find you, how they can follow you, and where they go to get more information.
So electiontransparency.org is our website. We have a lot of information there. And for us, we're always pursuing the gold standard, which is the and political candidates and parties should be able to see every single thing in the election except how you mark your ballot. electiontransparency.org, and you can follow me on Twitter at Ken Cucinelli.
Outstanding, sir. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for staying up late with us. Ken Cucinelli, National Chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative. Election Transparency Initiative. The website, again, is electiontransparency.org. Sir, you're a patriot, a scholar, and a gentleman, and I thank you.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. I'm going to get to your calls and more. Let's see. Where do we go? We go to Lincoln, Vermont, WVMT. Let's check in with Pete. Pete, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez. Welcome.
Thank you, Rich. Always great. A number of things. Hearing about Vice President Harris needing a babysitter to get an interview. To me, that tells you everything you need to know. These people are our employees. They need to be vetted carefully. I think there should be minimum of 3 debates in neutral territory, if not favorable. Decade after decade, Republicans crump to having these biased networks. Boston show today cited J.D. Vance's interview on CNN yesterday or so. I forget her name. And she said, Trump lies. We don't lie. We just let him speak. And she, suggests that he just lies. And I would have liked to have seen him. He rebutted some, but we need to get this out at every opportunity. He could have easily cited the fact that the left abuses the power of the edit. We had incredible freedom of the press, and I think a light needs to be shown on what amounts to really criminal misuse of the news without supplying the recorded available context.
Yeah,
and
it would be criminal if there were a law against lying. But, our free speech allows us to lie and make stuff up and do whatever. It's a shame, but it's where we are. Pete, Lincoln, Vermont, WVMT. I'm with you. I think we might need a revival, right? Because I would say a church commission, but I don't believe in the government and the government's intervention. We need a change of heart. Pete and Lincoln, thank you. WVMT, shout out to you guys. Folks, hour number 2 is coming up right now. Don't go anywhere. Keep it locked right here. 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-482-5337. I'm Rich Valdez.
from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 2 of our program. Our telephone number, if you want to join us, is 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And some of the headlines I'm looking at tonight, there's a bunch going on here. You've got the big story here is that Kamala Harris is going to be doing an interview with Tim Walz. That's right, Que Mala Eres, and Tiananmen Tim Walz. They're going to be doing a joint first interview. And again, it's atypical. It's probably the first in history. I can't imagine this having happened before. Somebody running for president, that after they've announced that they're running for president, their first sit-down interview with CNN is going to be with someone else. I mean, I find it remarkable. Haven't seen that before. That has to speak to people, right? That regular, everyday people that are atypical in their politics, they've got to sit there and say, what is going on here? What is the deal? Why is this occurring? Why wouldn't this woman sit down for that one-on-one and says, you know what, I'm ready to lead? When Joe said, you've got it, Kamala. And I said, we did it, Joe. And I'm here, and we're going to take out Trump because he's no good. And why wouldn't she do that? And then mention, and I'm excited about Tiananmen Tim, too. He's great. We're going to push the left-wing agenda. But no, they agree to do it together. This shows me how weak she is. And again, maybe I'm just presumptuous and a know-it-all in my own mind. But I see these people behaving like they know they're not going to win, because that's not a winning strategy. Maybe I'm wrong, but she's taking a little heat today. Why? Not just because of that. You got J.D. Vance, right? J.D. Vance is out there on the campaign trail, and he gets a little upset because Kamala Harris criticized Trump's visit honoring the 13 dead U.S. service members that died in the massacre that occurred at Abbey Gate outside of the Hamid Karzai airport in Afghanistan 3 years ago on Monday. And his words to her when he was at this event in Erie, Pennsylvania today, Kamala can go to hell. Listen to this.
And the other thing that our veterans care a lot more about is that 3 years ago, 13 brave, innocent Americans died, and they died because Kamala Harris refused to do her job, and there hasn't been a single investigation or a single firing. I don't, look, sometimes mistakes happen. That's just the nature of government, the nature of military service. But to have those 13 Americans lose their lives and not fire a single person is disgraceful. Kamala Harris is disgraceful. We're going to talk about a story out of those 13 brave, innocent Americans who lost their lives. It's that Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened. And she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
Isn't that crazy? And that sounded very sincere to me. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people who think that it's staged and whatnot, but I think a lot of people who've paid service to the country in uniform, they take their career seriously. They take their oath seriously. They take, their service to the country seriously, and wanting to honor their fallen brethren, at fault of the current administration, in the opinion of many, including mine. Doesn't seem to me a political thing. It really doesn't, and I don't know why it's being made one, and why Harris would be so critical of Trump. If anything, she could score some points with everybody, saying, you know what, kudos to the former president for showing up. I would have been there, but I was busy in Afghanistan. She got to come up with something to make herself look good, but she bailed. She didn't go. He went, and instead of her going and trying to at least do the same, monkey see, monkey do, like she did with his tax on tips and building a wall, you would think maybe she would copy this too, but no. she decides to say it's, to make a critical comment. And I think that was a bad move. There's also 2.9 billion people that may have had their Social Security numbers breached through a data breach. And I'm going to get into that on the right after the break. But right now, I want to bring in our guest to get some reaction to what you just heard from J.D. Vance, because he's also served in the United States Army. Colonel John Mills retired as a senior fellow at the Center for Security Policies, former director of cybersecurity and policy and strategy and international affairs at the Department of Defense. Colonel John Mills, welcome back, sir.
Hey, Rich, thank you. Always an honor to be on the show.
Thank you, sir. I love speaking with you. And of course, thank you for your service and a great book that you've got called War Against the Deep State. And I want to get your reaction to what Senator Vance said today, and really on how anybody could be critical of Trump going and laying a wreath for fallen service members. Your thoughts?
Well, Biden and now Harris don't even have the time of day for these 13 families. How dare they question? It was their job to meet them both at Dover Air Force Base when the bodies were flown in, to go today. Why wasn't Harris or Biden there? They're supposedly, one of them is supposedly the president. I say it's actually Harris. It's their job, and now they're just on cue. All these fake outrage stories. President Trump's staff had a tussle with the cemetery at Arlington. This is ridiculous. Fake news, totally made up, contrived. This is just the pettiness you get from these scoundrels. And the American military loves Trump, except for people like the Vindman brothers. And, the cancer really begins at the military academies, and it's really infected the senior officers. But most of the troops love Trump, and they know Trump loves them, and these families know Trump loves them. The families have been abandoned by Biden and Harris. Biden's looking at his watch at Dover. This is obviously just wasting his time being at Dover, and they are not showing up at anything. Again, nobody's been fired. Nothing has happened over Abbeygate, the worst fiasco in American military history since, I would say, Kasserine Pass in 1942, where we fired almost every single general in the Army to get to our war-winning generals. Not a single general was fired, or general or admiral. It's just pathetic. Total fake outrage, fake news, fake stories. Everything was fake about this. But this is what you get when the media is in the tank for anointing Harris. Yeah,
really is a good point. And again, just for the audience to be up to speed, the controversy comes from the Trump campaign being involved in what they're saying is an altercation at the National Cemetery in Arlington, saying that it was potentially a violation of federal law for photo ops or for video to be taken and used for partisan political purposes. The cemetery put out a statement about the alleged altercation between Trump's team and the cemetery, saying federal law prohibits campaign and political election-related activity, yada, 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 yada. What I saw was video. It didn't look like it was coming from a campaign per se. It looked like it was just like news footage. But this is what the whole argument is over. And again, what really is the bigger offense here? Not showing up and not laying the wreath and not being there for the families, or that somebody took a picture of you and now they try to blame it on Trump. You're right. It's fake. It's phony. It's fraud, and it's shameful. But this is what they've stooped to, so that they can continue to use their line of attack that he called the military suckers and losers, and relying on his disdain for John McCain. He made some very public comments about McCain, and because of that, now they think they could constantly make it look like Trump is anti-military, which I think one of the most difficult things to do is going to be to make that case effectively, especially to anybody who's ever interacted with him that was in the military. So, Colonel, I want you to stick with us because I want to get your expertise and your opinion on this story I saw in CNBC. 2.9 billion people may have had their Social Security numbers and other financial data compromised, and what this might mean. This is a big deal, and I want to get your take on it. So, folks, we're coming right back with Colonel John Mills.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Congratulations on just an amazing show. I know you've worked so hard in the industry, and nobody deserves it more than you do. So I'm happy to see you really succeeding here. It's awesome.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Almost every American Social Security number may have been leaked in a massive data breach. The data stolen from national public data was reportedly dumped on a dark web forum by a hacking group called USDOD. The group, which is offering to sell the stolen records, claims to have personal data for everyone in the U.S., UK, and Canada. People potentially affected are advised to monitor their credit reports and manage their passwords effectively. Now, this alert comes as the 2025 Social Security cost of living adjustment is projected to be about 2.5%. That's the smallest increase since 2021.
That report from Fox 11 in Los Angeles. And what's crazy here is, again, this isn't, a couple of handfuls of Social Security numbers. They're thinking like every adult American, something like just under 3 billion of them. Again, not every, but, a good amount. 3 billion people. That's a lot of people. And I want to go back to our guest, who's an expert on this stuff, Colonel John Mills. He's retired from the United States Army, senior fellow at the Center for Security Policy, former director of cybersecurity policy, strategy, and international affairs at the United States Department of Defense. Colonel, what's going on here? Who's stealing this stuff, and what are they going to do with it?
Rich, this story doesn't even make any sense. 3 billion Social Security numbers. There's roughly, including all the illegals in America, there's roughly 350 million with an M.
Right.
How were 3 billion stolen? That number doesn't even make any sense. And nobody's even questioning it. Yeah, nobody's even questioning. Why do we have 3 billion Social Security numbers? This whole story in itself is being shaped to mislead because they're going, watch out, your name might be on the dark web in this breach. And actually, I've already checked my name, my wife's name, they're already on this. Okay. But they're going, well, it's all about scale when it comes to cyber fraud. Scale. Criminals, and when you look at what's going on, international organized crime, all roads lead to China. The classic international organized crime you used to think about, Russia, things like that. Everybody works for China now. This is a massive attempt by China to obtain a massive amount of Social Security numbers, which, by the way, what was taken was the exact data elements needed to request a mail-in ballot: name, Social Security number, address, telephone number, the exact information, because what we are facing is a mail-in ballot fraud on an industrial scale. Now, Democrats had perfected the art of ballot chasing and ballot harvesting, which in many places is actually legal. So the Republicans have finally woken up and they say, hey, we're going to chase ballots too. Okay, well, the Dems are already on to the next phase of election malfeasance, and that's production of ballots. So watch this space. That's how it's going to go down this November. 3 billion Social Security numbers. Do they need 3 billion votes to, they talk about Joe Biden got 81 million. What are they going to say? Kamala got 3 billion. I mean, this is insanity. But mark my words, this is how it's going to go down in November. It's all going to be all about massive drop off and mail-in ballot fraud. That's how it's going to go down. And this breach, everybody's going, go check your credit score. Oh, unlock your credit score. Oh, hey, that's not what's going on here. That's a total canard and misdirection. This is about an absolute wave of malfeasance we have never seen before.
Colonel John Mills, you literally are the guy that wrote the book on the deep state, and this is a deep state tactic if I've ever seen one. It reeks of deep state, and my thinking is you're right. That's where they always do the fraud, is with ballot stuffing at those Zuckerberg boxes, which don't exist this time around, or at least he's not funding them this time around. So we can expect a little bit less mail-in voting because we're not in the midst of a pandemic where everybody's afraid for their life. What a difference 4 years makes. But that doesn't mean we're not going to have any. And I agree with you that that's where we'll see the majority of the fraud. But I think my question here is back to this cybersecurity stuff, because I feel like we've had a number of cyber incidents this year that I feel like more than usual. And many are suggesting that there's going to be some sort of cyber event that will mess up Election Day because they want to mess it up for Trump. It's known that Republicans like to vote on Election Day. Democrats like to vote in election month and all of that early voting. So have you heard anything about that? Do you have any speculation you can share, any of your own conjecture?
Oh, yeah. Well, in Virginia, we have a voting season starting September 15th. And again, we're,
more than a month.
At a meet. Yeah. Well, I was just at a meeting with Matt Whitaker and up in Virginia talking about that. Hey, we want Republicans to vote, use the laws in your state and vote during the election season. Don't like it. I'd rather have a single day. But when it comes to the cyber attacks, hey, we just had the Port of Seattle. When you look at strategically, the Port of Seattle is the massive port complexes in Seattle and Tacoma and the airport. They just had a massive cyber disruption. What's going on, it's called Volt Typhoon. It was announced in early 2023 by DHS and FBI that a massive Chinese-led intrusion into critical infrastructure was ongoing. They literally said, in preparation for war with America. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what else to say here. We got our own FBI saying the Chinese are breaking into our networks in preparation for war. I mean, that is literally the testimony they gave in front of Congress. And Port of Seattle just hit CrowdStrike. I don't buy the CrowdStrike story coming from George Kurtz, the CEO. I don't buy it.
Wow.
This is George Kurtz was the same guy who wiped out McAfee in 2010 with a bad software update. Also, he wiped out McAfee, the entire company. It's the Bell and Howell of cyber security now. It's a has-been. He wiped it out, and he goes, "Oh, it happened again." No, I do not buy the explanation on CrowdStrike at all. I would say this was either a willing insider or incompetent insider, but exploited by China. That's what's going on.
Colonel John Mills, I appreciate you, brother. Hoping to have you back soon for an update on this and talking about this Chinese cybercrime. It's fantastic. Sir, you're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. Godspeed to you. Folks, I want to invite you to give us a call, 833-482-5337. We're coming right back. I'm Rich Valdez. Don't go anywhere.
You have experience and skills in interviewing, or you wouldn't be on your program.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Researchers say parents pick up their phones an average of 93 times a day and get around 300 notifications, if you can believe that. And the most stressful times are weekdays when their kids are in more of those after-school activities. But going without a phone may not help either, because many parents also say the thought of not having a cell phone was more stressful than the notifications themselves.
That report on phones and how phones are creating stress for people. I want to get the expert opinion of Dr. Marschall Runge. He is a MD and a PhD. He's the CEO of the Michigan Medicine and the Executive Vice President of Medical Affairs at the University of Michigan. Dr. Runge, welcome.
Well, thank you. It's great to be on the show, and this is a really interesting study.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think everybody gets stressed out from everything, but I didn't know there was A, a study on phones, and B, sometimes phones can be a reprieve from the other stressors of life, but you're right, sometimes they themselves can be the stressors. Tell us more.
Well, I think the study really exemplifies a particular subset of people who are very much affected by notifications on their phones. In today's 24/7 world, we're all expected to be available all the time, but that comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of being distracted or stressed, or sometimes even there are studies that show depression. So in this study, what was interesting, as it said, the person said, you quoted, said, this was about 62 parents with about 62 children, and they got an astounding number of notifications, text messages, all kinds of notifications, on average 293 per person. And they actually picked up their phone 93 times. And you could say, well, why? Why are they picking it up? And it's because these kids, their children are age 4 to 6. They're in the prime years for some sort of unexpected incident. So a young parent with a young child is going to pick up the phone. And the trouble is that has resulted in their feeling overstressed, perhaps more stressed than they ever have been before. But as mentioned, if you take away people's phone these days, that can really be stressful. In fact, there's even a term for it, a condition called nomophobia. And so for a few minutes, it's okay. For half an hour, it's stressful. If you tell somebody they're going to not have access to their phone for half of the day, for some people, that is extremely stressful. So it's both sides of technology.
I've been in that situation once or twice. And again, I get all my breaking news on my phone, and I'm on all the social platforms, and people send me stuff, and people are texting me like stories for the radio show and everything. So that's a big thing. And the most important thing is I've got little this tracking. I don't want to call it a tracking app, but like a family app, and lets me know where my kids are. And if I can't look at their location and see where they are, I tend to freak out. So being without my phone for hours on end would probably drive me nuts. And it's happened on a couple of occasions, and I have to talk myself off the ledge. Now, Dr. Runge, what are some of the, if somebody comes, to you and says, hey, this person's freaking out because they don't have their phone, what do you do? Tell them to take a deep breath, go to the gym, prescribe them Xanax? Like, what do you do?
That's a very tough problem. And in fact, I think that's tougher than it is trying to reduce the number of notifications because, as you alluded to, you can certainly reduce how many times your phone dings because you can just take the notification off of it. But I don't have a solution for people who have become so dependent upon their phone for critical updates and critical issues like being able to keep track of your kids. So I think that the best that I can say is there are, and I have to tell people this sometimes, there are situations where you just can't have your phone on. And there's
time to grow up, right?
It's just, yeah. And so you have to develop your own coping mechanisms and understand that you will get your phone back. You will be able to talk on your phone or text. I mean, today you can text on planes, but I think that was very stressful for people when they could not. So it's a technology-driven syndrome, really. That we have this technology. Who knows? Nobody would have felt this way 15 years ago, but they do now, and
right.
It's just part of everyday life.
So interesting. It's so true, too. When I was a kid, we barely had a quarter for a payphone. You know, if you fell off a cliff, your parents wouldn't know until like a cop came a week later. But here we are now. I'm worried about my kids and their app and their phone. Folks, we're on with Dr. Marschall Runge. He's an MD, PhD, and he's the CEO of Michigan Medicine and the EVP of Medical Affairs at the University of Michigan. When we come back, we're going to talk about just what I was talking about, parental stress. Thank God my kids are great and they don't really stress me out. But I know there's a lot of people that have all sorts of stress related to being a parent. So if you're a parent or a grandparent or your neighbor is a parent and has little kids or big kids, you know the old saying, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. We're going to learn about parental stress straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Mr. Call Springer, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I don't think it's a surprise that parenthood is stressful. I think
Desiree Terry is the mother of 3 children.
I think we've all been feeling it for a really long time, and it's wonderful to actually have some numbers to back it up.
Terry is talking about the findings in a new Surgeon General advisory. Dr. Vivek Murthy says 48% of parents feel completely overwhelmed.
That tells us we've got a real challenge. And there's a lot that's driving that. You know, parents they're not only contending with the usual stressors that come with being a parent, worrying about finances and safety, but they're also worried about how to manage social media and phones for their kids.
Associate Professor of Child Psychiatry at the University of Chicago, Dr. Khalid Afzal, says parents' well-being is crucial when it comes to a child's well-being. Afzal also says the finding about the role of social media in a parent's life was very revealing.
They are seeking advice from these outlets where anyone can open a blog and then start to talk about which is not research-based or evidence-based. So that's one. But also these reports of fancy lives, which we idealize, but it's very hard to achieve in general public.
Murthy also says employers should provide more paid leave for parents and access to affordable childcare and have policies in place that support parents and their mental health. In the newsroom, Suzanne Lemignot, CBS News, Chicago.
So there it is. Who would have thunk it? Parents get stressed out. I can't believe there's a study on this, but it is interesting. And the fact that the Surgeon General is issuing a public health advisory to parents calling for more government support always irks me. I don't think we need government support. I think you need family support. But Dr. Runge, what's going on here? Haven't parents always gotten stressed out? And why is the Surgeon General calling attention to this?
Well, I actually think it's important to call attention to it. I don't think that it's the solutions are some of the ones he suggested, but raising this to the level that it is makes it's that level is the advisory reserved for significant public health challenges, and I think it is an exacerbation that is in part related to social media. So I think parents have always been stressed out, and they stressed out where their kid is, what their child is doing, and it continues. It's not just when they're adolescents, which is a prime time, but also when they get to be young adults. And I think that a big problem we have relates to indirectly to social media, because a person can become quite established as an expert who has no expertise. And I see this. I see it when I talk to colleagues, but I also see it with patients who come in and are very, very dogmatic about what they read on the internet, and it could be through blogs, it could be through social media, was something that is coming from a person who is able to express themselves very well in these formats, but really is expressing views that don't represent reality. And so I think you put all that together, and their kids are getting, and the kids, in some ways, I think, are responding to the parents' stress, and so they're stressed. So they look and see what they can find online, and that, I think, increases the distance between them and their parents, and vice versa. So I think I'm glad it came to attention. I think it's not something that can be cured by some of the things suggested by Murphy, but I think that it's a real problem. So I think it compounds upon the worry that parents have had on their children, with their children, ever since I've been a parent, which is a long time.
Now, let's just say we get to make you the new Surgeon General. What steps would you recommend?
Well, as you know, it's possible to, at least for a period of time, to filter what access your children have to different parts of the internet, and I think that's important. Of course, as soon as they get old enough to have a job and they can buy their own phone, that's gone. But I think it's also, I think the best thing that can happen is that parents and their children develop other ways of communication, and so they can talk about these things. And they can. I think if you start early, this is an opinion. There are studies that show this. I think if you start early with your children and explain to them that they're going to be bombarded by information, and not all of it's going to either be correct or what fits their parents' value systems, I think those conversations are difficult but important.
Yeah, I agree. And for the parents of a younger child, where it's not the same type of stress, but it's more like, I'm fearful about my kid starting school or going to school or learning things that we don't necessarily endorse at home. In particular, the big push towards gender that's now in early education that didn't exist when I was a kid, and I'm sure it didn't exist when you were a kid. What do you caution parents? How should they handle that? Do they take their kids out of school? Is it a conversation that they have? Obviously, if there's a consideration to take your kid out of school, if it's something you can do, some parents might consider that. But I'm sure that makes them uneasy, because I've had callers call here saying that they're worried about their kids or their grandkids, and it's a legitimate concern.
Well, my colleagues in pediatrics tell me that, and our faculty in pediatrics tell me that is a very stressful time when children start going to school. Again, I think the advantage that parents have is to be able to have these conversations before their kids are exposed to the world and exposed to school environments, and to say, hey, when you go to school, you're going to hear this, you're going to hear that, and let's talk about it. It's sort of like, and I don't know about for you, but boy, I have 5 kids. The first time I had to have a conversation with my oldest son about sex, I mean, that was so hard as a parent. I got better at it. We have 5 kids, but are more comfortable with it anyway. But I think we as parents have the advantage of setting the stage and setting the table so that our children don't necessarily get sucked into whatever is being preached to them when they go to school. And I would say that going to school, not everybody can either homeschool or has the financial ability to send their kids to private schools. But I also think that the parents need to recognize that that's just one of the exposures to the world. Their kids are going to get exposed to the world, so they might as well try to develop coping skills for their children and themselves by keeping close to them. Now, of course, we have grandchildren now, so there's a cutoff of that about 10 or 11 years old when so they don't really want advice from anybody. But you have a chance at them earlier.
Yeah, good point. Folks, we are wrapping our conversation with Dr. Marschall Runge, MD, PhD, CEO of Michigan Medicine and Executive Vice President of Medical Affairs at the University of Michigan. And Dr. Runge, for people that want to follow the work that you're doing, where do they go? How do they follow you? What's your website?
We have a website. My my work website is at Michigan Medicine, and we have headlines, and that's one way to follow. I'm just developing. I'm sort of steered clear of social media myself, but now developing a website, and I'll be on a couple of social media platforms, which is not so much about my professional life, but about I have a novel that I published about a year ago that was focused on the potential problems of technology in healthcare and how it can go right and how it can go wrong, particularly focused on electronic medical records.
Oh,
so that novel,
that's funny that you said that. Just to chime in here, there was a story over the weekend that the Epic system, which a lot of people use, almost everybody, is now being used by a company called Vote ER to have doctors register patients to vote. What do you think of that?
I don't think much of it.
Me either.
And the reason
why would I want to go to you with an MD and a PhD to get me to register to vote? That's crazy.
Well, and I think when you start having active voter registration through the electronic medical record, it creates a weird dynamic. I mean, we should be using Epic and other electronic medical records to interface with our patients about medical problems. So I understand the push to do that, but I'm not a fan.
Yeah, nor am I. Dr. Runge, I definitely want to have you back to talk about your novel. It sounds very interesting. We're out of time here, but I do appreciate it. Folks, give him a follow, check out the work he's doing, and he'll definitely be back with us. I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, and have a good rest of your evening.
You too. God bless. All right, folks, your calls and more are coming up in the third hour of the show, which is minutes away, and we're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, we will return to your phone calls. Let's go to Monica, Pendleton, Oregon, KUMA. Monica, welcome. You're on with Rich Valdez.
Hi, how are you doing tonight?
Wonderful, thank you.
Good. That was crazy. I was on hold, and then I bumped something on the phone. I'm like dialing frantically to get back in, and thank
And you made
God. Yes, I did.
Well, the clock is ticking. The music's going to start. What's on your mind?
Oh, okay. I'll be as fast as I can. But no, it gets me about the whole, the stress with the cell phones, with the iPhones, whatnot. Because when I was a kid, I grew up with having party lines.
Yeah.
And right now, I don't have a regular cell phone. Stupidly lost that I have a tablet, but then when I get notifications, I just get annoyed. And my daughter's school, they're now offering, the bus company's offering a new bus app, and that's great. Normally, I know when she gets home, and I just always look out the window. So.
So you don't get stressed out. You get annoyed more than anything with the notifications.
I do. For me, it's like, get a life. Go away.
I've got other things to do. I got bills to pay.
Exactly.
I've got inflation to deal with.
I've got chickens to feed. I got a house to run. So I don't have time. I'm a backwoods country girl. And and also, I was just going to say, too, that this coming election, I feel, is going to be a test of critical thinking.
100%. If we don't test people's critical thinking with this election, we never, ever will. Monica in Pendleton, Oregon, KUMA in the building. Thank you for the call. Folks, hour number 3 is coming up right now. Open Phone America. Get your calls in. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't go anywhere. Keep it locked here. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 3 of the program. If you want to join us, our phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez is the number. And, man, lots to discuss here. I've got a bunch of stuff I want to talk about. And there's a report, not a report, there's a clip of audio about the debate over the debate. Will there be a muting of microphones or not? Now, the Trump team has already agreed to the debate, saying, look, we've agreed to this. We accepted the same terms as the debate with Biden, which had the muted microphones. Now they're trying to make it seem like Kamala doesn't want the muted. Trump said he didn't want muted microphones, but that was the deal at the debate, so no problem. And it looks like they're trying to make a bigger issue out of it, saying Trump has agreed, but his team hasn't agreed, and there's a back and forth. And I want you to listen to this exchange. Count Delacula, what's the number on this? John Berman, he's from CNN, and the spokesman, Michael Tyler from the Harris campaign. Listen to this.
This debate on September 10th on ABC, what rules has the Harris-Walz campaign agreed to?
Yeah, listen, I think both candidates here have agreed to the exact same rules, right? We're going to have a 90-minute debate. Both candidates have said that they are comfortable with live unmuted microphones for the duration of the debate that allows for the free flow and exchange of ideas between the two candidates. I understand that Donald Trump's team of handlers is now attempting to overrule him, but insofar as the candidates themselves, we're in total alignment that this should be a 90-minute debate with live microphones. And so that's what we look forward to.
I'm just trying to understand where we are right now, because yesterday the Trump campaign very clearly put out a statement, said they agreed to the same rules as took place in the June debate between President Biden and Donald Trump, where there were muted microphones. Have you not agreed to muted microphones?
I think we've made pretty clear our preference, along with Donald Trump himself, is for unmuted microphones. I think the question that you'd have to ask is to Donald Trump and his team, are they in agreement between themselves on how we should approach this debate? Because we are in agreement with Donald Trump that these should be live and unmuted microphones.
If they're muted, will she go?
Yeah, listen, we fully intend to debate. We are going to be there. The question is, will Donald Trump commit to the terms that he's publicly agreed to, or will he let his team overrule him? So I guess we'll see if and when he shows up on September 10th, which decision he has made.
Trying to make something out of nothing over here. The debate before the debate. Why don't we talk about Tyler, Mr. Tyler? Why did you not accept the debate, or why did Kamala Harris not accept the debate with Fox News? Everybody's all eager. I want to have a debate. I want to have a debate. I have not seen Kamala Harris on a debate stage in years. I've seen Donald Trump on a debate stage. He's willing. He's out there. He's doing the media interviews. He's available for questions. How many times have you not seen Trump walking away and turn back to answer a question? He does it all the time. He's a media hound. God bless him. I love that guy because he's willing to do what has to be done in order to win. People have to get to know you. People have to understand your philosophy, your ideas. You can't just rely on the media telling you about somebody, which is why I love radio, right? Radio gives you a rare opportunity. You can't see their face, so you have to focus on what they're saying. You have to feel, emphatically, viscerally, and every other adjective you can come up with, right? You get to know people. I often talk about people, I'm on a tangent here, but I often talk about people who do radio and do TV. And people know them because of mass media, but they don't know them. And if they do know them, it's because of radio. And I think that is such a, I don't know if it's a phenomena, but I'll use that word here, or at least a nuance. People get your personality on the radio. Radio is a lot less scripted. When you're doing television, there's teleprompters, there's the breaks are more, more frequent and in my opinion, maybe longer, so that your segments are shorter. I don't think I've seen TV segments that are longer than 6 minutes long. People go on TV, they're prepared for the best 6 minutes of their life, and that's it. We have, my interviews, each segment can be 10 minutes long, 10 and a half minutes, 11, 12 sometimes. So in a situation like that, it gives you an opportunity to really unwind with somebody and really get into a topic and get, and ask plenty of follow-up questions to help clarify, which you lose in television. And again, this is not a indictment on television. I love television. But my point is, you really get to know somebody. And that's what these debates do as well. They let you get to know the candidate. That's why they're 90 minutes long, and you're able to cover a range of topics. But if you don't do them, especially the ones where you're tested, look, Donald Trump had trouble with, at the time, they weren't getting along great. I think they get along a lot better now, with Megyn Kelly, who I think is fantastic, at the Fox News Channel. And, and she asked some tough questions. And that there was some friction, but they got through it. He showed up, right? Trump debated everybody back in the day. 15 different Republicans, laying the smackdown one after the other. So nobody can really ever fault Trump and say he didn't do it. Now, you could say, well, Rich, didn't Kamala Harris also debate everybody? Yeah, but she wasn't the one doing the spanking. She got spanked by Tulsi Gabbard. So forgive me if I say I haven't seen Kamala Harris on the debate stage in forever. It's because I haven't seen her, and I've never seen her do well, except for that one time she laid the 1-2 punch, almost a knockout punch, on her future boss, Joe El Baboso Biden. That was it. And that was a very good shot that she landed that night. Anyway, I want to get your thoughts on this, on immigration. We've talked about a number of things tonight. We talked about immigration, election integrity, as well as this school bus that was nearly hijacked, and how they're going to avoid this. They're going to be avoiding bus stops where they think there are migrants. I thought we didn't know what migrants look like, and that was why police couldn't pull people over. We've got to get our story straight here, folks. Anyway, we're coming right back with the rest of your calls and more. I am Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
right. But you're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
A group of migrants tried to board a school bus this morning while it was traveling to a school. The superintendent for the Homeland del Zura Union School District informed parents of that incident earlier today. It happened at one of the stops on the school district's bus route that heads to Oak Grove Middle School and Homeland Primary. Meanwhile, yesterday afternoon, in a similar area along another route, the superintendent says that a group of migrants tried to stop another bus. Border Patrol, CHP, and the Sheriff's Office have now been informed of these incidents. The superintendent says that for the safety of everyone, if a driver sees a group of migrants at a bus stop, they will drive past it and move on to the next.
Migrants hijacking a school bus because the government is forcing us to allow them to be here. Then you've got The government forcing technology companies to change their rules. Listen to Elon Musk on this one.
I was told in no uncertain terms by the government that if we hired anyone who is not a permanent resident of the United States, had to have either a green card or a citizen, that I would go to prison. Because the presumption if somebody is not a permanent resident is that they will leave the United States and take the rocket technology from SpaceX to potentially to countries that would cause harm to the United States. Pretty, solid reasoning, I think. A few years ago, the Biden administration decided to sue SpaceX for failing to hire asylum seekers. So we're told on the one side that if we hire anyone who's not a permanent resident, we go to prison. Now we're told if we don't hire asylum seekers who are not people who have been granted asylum, seekers, they aspire to asylum, they're therefore not a permanent resident, but if we don't hire them, we also go to prison. So, I mean, that seemed to be insane and unfair. And why did the Biden administration, of all the injustices that occur, pick this as one of their biggest cases?
Yeah, that's a great question, Elon Musk. Well, you know what? J.D. Vance, Trump's running mate, he addressed this recently at one of his campaign stops. Listen to this.
Our message to illegal aliens who've come into this country by breaking our laws is yes. If you came into this country illegally, Donald Trump and I are going to work to send you home because that's what is required if you want to have a real border policy. And our message to everybody who wants to come to this country is come through the right channels, because as soon as Kamala Harris is booted out of office, and it's going to happen in just a few short months, as soon as Kamala Harris is booted out of office, we are not open for business to illegal aliens or to the Mexican drug cartels anymore. That is our solemn promise to the American people, and we are very serious about it.
Yeah, they should be serious about it. This is America here, folks. Everything's on the line. And the amount of money that's going out. And again, some of this stuff you take with a grain of salt. You don't know how real things are. But it doesn't really surprise me. There was a waitress that took a picture of a receipt. And I guess someone paid with their EBT card. And she said, a family of migrants are just here, something like that on this post. And all she said was, check out the balance. And they were given a food stamp card and cash assistance, TANF. And on the card, it said that they still had almost $14,000 remaining in their balance, and just under $5,000 remaining on the cash part. And I thought, wow, you can buy just 13,000 some odd hundreds of dollars worth of groceries with the EBT card. And then in the cash portion, there was just under $5,000 available. So it makes me think there was at least $20,000 that were given to this family or this individual when they arrived in this country as asylum seekers, quote unquote. Interesting, right? So it makes me beg the question, when does that expire? Do they say, here, this is for life? This is for the next 6 months? Because I don't know. If they're getting one, can I get one too? I mean, imagine tomorrow you wake up and you've got this EBT card. Now, listen, I'm not asking the government to spend money. I'm just saying, imagine if everybody had one. Would there be any government left? Would we totally break our system? Maybe, maybe not. I'm leaning towards eventually breaking the system, sure. How do you sustain that for the 2.9 billion Americans that they say are having their Social Security numbers stolen when there's only 300 million Americans to begin with? The whole thing, or 320, whatever the number is, 330. Very, very funny stuff, very funny business. Sounds like I might need a handler or a babysitter to get to the bottom of that, just like Kamala Harris needs one for her debates and her interviews on CNN. Let's go to the phones, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. I want to go to Sue, Schwenksville, Pennsylvania, WXDE. Sue, welcome.
Good evening. And so my question to you is, have you ever had a job interview where they let you bring a friend or an emotional support animal? I mean, this is just, she lacks the confidence, or her campaign lacks the confidence in her to do even a pre-recorded interview with the most sympathetic of media without some guy sitting there, some crutch, some court jester, someone to interrupt her when she gets into trouble? I mean, even your average voter who's low information should see something wrong with that, shouldn't they?
Yeah, they should, unless they're told by CNN or some other sympathetic source that here she goes again, breaking that glass ceiling. Traditionally, these folks sit down for one-on-one interviews, but she says that's part of the male patriarchy. She wants to do it as the feminist that she is, and she's doing it with Tim Walz. She's demanding that a man be at her side to help her out. I don't know what spin they're going to come up with, but, I mean, apparently Kamala's now in favor of the border wall. She's reducing taxes, and I'm just waiting for her to come out and say, you know, with these big hand motions and say, we're going to make America great again in her Trump voice. I mean, she's just out of control, Sue.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, how embarrassing for women. Oh, she can't do it by herself? Give me a break. I mean, I'm working on my deck by myself because I can do it myself. I don't need my husband to help me. And she doesn't need anybody to help her, allegedly, but apparently she does. It's pathetic, really. And maybe that's good. People see what it's really like. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of a joke. No.
I'm with you. I honestly, I can't wait to see it and give my opinion on it and really see how. I'm sure she's got to do extraordinarily well, right? If this is pre-taped with friendly people and people that, it's your people. Come on. If this isn't a softball interview, what is? So I'm going to guess that there's likely not going to be a whole lot of gaffes in the gaff reel. This is going to be sharp and well delivered because she's had some time to practice too. We will see how it plans out. Maybe I will be let down. Maybe not. I don't know. But I also want to get your thoughts. What do you think about these Venezuelan gangs that have taken over the apartment building in Colorado?
Well, it's quite scary. And actually, even out here where I live, which is pretty much the boonies in Montgomery County here in Pennsylvania, my husband was riding his bike the other day, and he ran into one of these guys that had tattoos all over his face and everything, a teardrop on the side of his face. He was riding an e-bike on our trail here, and he stopped at some point. My husband chatted with him. He said he was waiting for some friends. I'm like, oh, my God, they're here. They can get access to our property from the trail, so they're out here even. I mean, they may not be Venezuelans, but they're here, and it's quite scary. We can't just sit by and let this stuff happen anymore. Our country's getting taken over.
Yeah, you're 100% right, Sue. And my family has a farm in Pennsylvania, and I can tell you that it probably wouldn't go really well, honestly, in that part of town. They're not in your area. They're in Clinton, which is, I don't know, it's on the county line between two different counties. But there's one sheriff for the whole town, so pretty much everybody there has guns, and, they kind of police their own property. And, it's not a good situation. The whole thing is just not a good situation. Sue in Schwenksville, Pennsylvania, thanks for the call, WXDE. Anyway, when we come back, we continue our discussions on what we talked about tonight, election integrity, parents that are too stressed out to do anything else, and everything else we chatted about. Plus, I got a lot more audio for you guys. Stick around. Remember when Jesse Jackson actually liked Trump? I do, and I've got some tape. Don't go anywhere. I am Rich Valdez.
Live on the air, it's Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Well, I'm in the real estate market. I'm pretty familiar with what's going on there. And I wanted to add one element to this. I have over 54 portfolio companies and pretty well split down the middle in terms of men and women CEOs. Some are Democrats, some are Republicans. We need policy. What we pursue is to understand policy so we can make our plans about how we're going to invest in quarter 2, quarter 3, and onwards next year. We're desperate for policy. We really need it. It's same thing in the real estate market. You know, I need to understand what's going to change on cap gains on taxation, particularly important when I syndicate $1 billion worth of debt or equity in a real estate project. I'm doing data centers these days. They're up to $3 billion for each campus. We're all waiting for policy because there's a 50-50 chance that Harris is the president. I'm okay with that. I just need to understand what's her policy. And I've never seen a candidate in my life that doesn't do live interviews with the press. I mean, this is unprecedented, where they would ask those questions. I'm very uncomfortable about it. I'm very vocal about it. I've been saying, come out wherever you are and talk to the press live.
Yeah, live. I like that. Like Bill O'Reilly said, let's do it live. We're doing it live. I understand why. I get all of the strategy. I'm glad he's pointing it out. I'm glad we're having the conversation here because this is very important. I've never seen it either. Most candidates jump at the opportunity to get some press, especially if it's live. You know, you tape a show, you never know what's getting cut out of it. You never know how they're going to edit you. I typically only agree to do live if I'm going on someone else's stuff. I've done some podcasts, but I tell them I tape to live, you know, and honor system. If I listen to the podcast later and I hear that you chopped me up and you took me out of context, or even if you keep the context and just shrink me down after I asked you to do it tape to live, I'll never do your show again and I'll badmouth you on the radio because that's not cool. I don't do that to anybody and nobody should do that to me. So I think Mr. Wonderful, and that's, by the way, who that was. That was Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, billionaire investor there. He's 100% right. And you know, he's right about cap gains too, right? These capital gains tax. You've got Bharat Ramaruti. Pretty sure I said that right. He is former deputy director of NEC and National Economic Council. And it was on CNBC today saying that Harris's plan for taxing, you know, will not affect people making less than $400,000 a year. They actually will get a tax cut. How many times have you heard that? And ask yourself, because I've had people make this argument, say, oh, so now you're making more than $400K, and that's the blah, 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 blah. Ask yourself this. When was the last time you got a tax cut? Because the Democrats are always saying that only applies to people making $400K. All right, so you don't make $400K. When was the last time you enjoyed a Joe Biden tax cut? A Barack Obama tax cut? A Kamala Harris tax cut? The only tax cuts we've seen in the last, I don't know, I'm going to go with 20 years. Bush tax cuts, Trump tax cuts. So you tell me, which this $400,000 a year arbitrary figure that somehow we hate everyone that makes more than $400,000 a year and they have to suffer and they have to pay the price because their fair share is more than mine, right? When it could simply be a flat tax, a percentage. Anyway, getting off the topic here. But that's a lie, right? This whole $400,000 a year thing, it's a lie. And we know that to be true. So I want you to hear this gentleman here, Bharat Ramaruti, former deputy director of the National Economic Council. Check this out.
For people who make under $400,000 a year, which is the vast majority of Americans, their taxes would either stay the same or go down under the Harris plan. In fact, for 100 million Americans, they would get a tax cut under the Harris plan. As for very, very high-income Americans, you're right. There's going to be some tax increases under the plan. They're largely focused on capital income, and I think it's a common sense policy to make sure that we address the problem that we have right now, which is that for people who earn most of their income through a large investment portfolio, over the course of their lifetime, the effective rate that they pay on that is a lot lower than somebody who goes in and teaches school every day or drives a bus or works on the factory floor. I think that that's unfair, and I think most of the American people agree with that. So as we're looking for revenue to bring in to do this in a fiscally responsible way, it's a source of income, a source of revenue that makes a lot of sense.
source of income, right? This man, the source of income, source of revenue, the government's income is stealing your money. It's stealing my money. Let that never be lost on anyone. And I know most of this audience, you guys know this stuff inside and out. But anybody who's new to the show that says, you know what, I can tolerate this guy. He's not crazy like the others. No, I am just as crazy, if not crazier. I hate taxes. I hate the IRS. It is a crime. And you contribute. You're getting robbed too. And that's why I'm telling you to ask yourself, when was the last time you took, and you're like, oh, because of this nice tax cut I got from a Democrat, I'm going to go to Aruba. When did that happen? I know it didn't happen. It didn't happen. If it did, you'd be ringing on the phone right now saying, oh, look, put me on the phone with this guy. 833-4825-337, 8334-VALDEZ. And you'd want to set me straight. But I know my stuff on this stuff. Nobody's making more money with Democrats. It's not happening. Punto y final. Period. The end. Now, this doesn't end there, right? It doesn't end there. Because you've got this guy, Greg Piazza, from Unretired American, which is, featuring the story about this 74-year-old intern who can't afford to live. So he becomes a paid intern at 74 years old. It's a plot of a Hollywood movie. And he's on, he's talking about, his name's Barry Schoen. He's talking about this, and he's making it clear that in real life, people are dealing with this because people are now spending anywhere from $700 to $1,000 per month more than they used to, thanks to Kamala Harris. Listen to this.
A paid internship at 74 years old is the plot of a Hollywood movie, but the stark reality for Barry, who is their star intern here at Career Source Ballard, helping others find employment.
So Greg Piazza, he's explaining about this increase over the last 4 years. And who can we blame? We're going to blame Trump, who hasn't been in office in 4 years? Or we're going to blame the people that are in office? Listen to this.
You know, Greg, we got this big graph of inflation in the country compared under Biden and Harris, and then Trump and Pence. So I guess the big question is, what was life for you under Donald Trump compared to now?
A whole different ballgame. Like I said, I mean, the intention was always to work because I wanted to, just work 20, 30 hours a week, stay busy, stay active, have a couple extra bucks in my pocket. Now it's basically just to survive. Our expenses, our household expenses over the last 4 years have increased anywhere from $700 to $1,000 a month. And that's as a result of everything I just stated. Groceries, car insurance has gone up $200 to $300 a month in the last 4 years. And it's not just because we live in Florida. You can check. They tell you the same thing. It's inflation. Any given month, any given week, if we have stuff going on, the grocery bills are outrageous. So in the wages, when I want to scream when I hear Biden talk and Harris talk about how wages have kept up. No, they have not. No employer on this planet can give their employee a 10 to 20% raise a year. It's not happening. That is a fallacy. And I don't expect employers to do that. There's no way they can.
He's 100% right on that one. But that's the reality. Incomes are not keeping up. They're being outpaced by inflation. This is very bad. Very bad. Doesn't matter what they say. It matters what you do, right? What you're actually dealing with. I know I'm dealing with it too. I enjoy going to a good restaurant, eating whatever I feel like, and usually a steak. And I do that a lot less now. Why? Because I'm spending more than $1,000 per month on auto insurance for 3 cars. And I know other people that have 3 cars and young children, teenager and 20-something, that pay, $650, $700 a month. Now, I know there's different nuances and this and that, but I'm pretty sure I'm getting hit over the head. Because why? Because I was paying something like $680 just a little while ago. And it went up to $800, and then it went up to 9-something, and then it went up to $1,200, and then they sent me a letter saying that it's actually going to be like $1,050. And I'm supposed to thank them for that, right? Oh, well, thank you. May I have another? No. I'm going to be on the hunt. I'm going to be on the hunt for insurance soon, tomorrow, because, you know, who wants to pay $1,000 a month for insurance? And of course, that's not the only bill that's gone up. Let me see, just to get factual here. My high-speed internet went up by $30 per month. Again, you know, that for some people, they're like, oh, come on, stop whining about $30. Listen, everything adds up. You go with a $400 increase on auto insurance, $30 on whatever. Guess what? You know, what I used to do with my extra $430 a month. I would eat it. I can't now. Now I have to go to the gym and work out all the time. And come on, I want to eat some steak. Let's get El Trompito back in office. All right, I'm going to take a pause right here. We're coming back to your calls. We got calls from Arizona, Ohio, Idaho, and more. Where's New York at? Where's Oregon at? Where's our Hawaii affiliate at? Come on. I want to hear from you guys. 482-5337 is the number. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
I now want to bring forth a friend who has, he is deceptive in that his social style is of such. One can miss his seriousness and his commitment, for his success is beyond argument. When we opened this Wall Street project and we talked about it, he gave us space at 40 Wall Street, which was to make a statement about our having a presence there. And beyond that, in terms of reaching out and being inclusive, he's done that too. And created for many people a comfort zone when I ran for the presidency in 84 and 88. And many others thought it was either laughable or something to avoid. He came to our business meeting here in New York because he has this sense of the curious and a will to risk to make things better. And so aside from all of his style and his pizzazz, he is a serious person who is an effective builder of building with a builder of people. Last year, he was a part of our workshop, of our panel workshop on what are the challenges and opportunities. And so this, a year later, Donald Trump, for a few minutes, challenges and opportunities to embrace the underserved communities. Donald Trump.
That there is the Reverend Jesse Jackson, the Rainbow Coalition, right? And, this is before Donald Trump was a racist. Apparently, he was never a racist back then when he was funding Jesse Jackson's presidential campaign in 84 and 88 and still supporting him in 99, which is when that clip is from. It's from 1999. Jesse Jackson giving a glowing introduction to Donaldus Magnus El Trompito, the 45th president of these United States, back when he was just a builder. And isn't that something? How different things are, how things change. And let us go to the phones. Let's go to Pat in Sedona, Arizona, streaming the show, richvaldez.com. Pat, what's on your mind, my man?
My friend, good show. I mean, this is what I've been thinking about for 3 years. I've just got one thing to say to everybody. Are you awake yet? Are you seeing what I've been seeing for 3 years? I've seen this the destruction of our economy. This people cannot make money anymore. The cost of living, insurance. I mean, you mess with oil, okay? You mess with oil energy. Look where it trickles down to, and the expense of food, the expense of gas, the expense of fixing cars, insurance for your house, insurance for your medical. It's like I say, it's the economy's stupid, and I think they're finally getting it. I'm thinking people are calling into you, Rich, and they're saying they get it, and thank God. I mean, I am so happy that people are waking up to this. And,
Amen to that, Pat. I agree. People need to wake up. They need to be on board. They need to pay attention and realize where we are. And we're in a bad place, and we need to know who got us in this bad place. Pat in Sedona, Arizona, thanks for the call, brother. Folks, coming right back, it's the speed round. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America. This is Night. This is Rich Valdez.
Well, it is an honor to be here, and I was with Jesse last year, and we had a lot of fun, and it was a little different. Jesse started off by saying, most of the wealth in this country is in the hands of a few. And I thought to myself, is that a bad thing? What's wrong with that, Jesse?
All right, what's wrong with that, Jesse? Now, you've got the El Trompito back in the days with Jesse Jackson. They seem to get along really, really well now. He's not so persona non grata, right? He's not welcome. Anyway, let's continue the conversation. Let's go to Bill, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, WRNN. Go right ahead.
Mr. Valdez, how you doing? Hey, you give everybody a little nickname. I have got a nickname for you, Mr. Rich Bonchinchero Valdez.
Well, yeah, I like it, Bochinchero. That's what I do. I remember my ex-wife used to tell me, she was like, what you do is really just political gossip. You say that this one said, and today that one said, and today that one said. And I said, yeah, in effect, that's actually what we do. What's on your mind, Bill?
You actually forgot about Obama's tax cut that ran through 2012, the Recovery Act.
I didn't forget about that. That's actually called the Bush tax cut that he continued and extended. Now, the Recovery Act was a package of bills that were put together very similar to the Inflation Reduction Act. And if you compare the two, they're very similar. And what it is more government spending that adds to inflation. It doesn't really cut taxes. It just prints more government money to try and make it look like you're alleviating a situation, right? This is not the same as actually not taking people's money through taxation, Bill.
It actually reduced families' income debt by $800.
Right, that's not a tax cut, though. If I send you a check for $1,000, your income is going to go up by $1,000. But if that $1,000 check came out of government coffers, and those government coffers are made up of what? Our tax dollars, which is what I was just criticizing the guy for. He said, because revenues, income, right? And as if the government has income. The government doesn't have income. The government is utilizing our tax dollars, our income. And this is the big problem. And when Kamala Harris attacks Trump and says that he wants a 23% tax, she's forgetting the fact that he's also saying we're going to abolish the income tax and have a 23% consumption tax, in effect, a national sales tax. This is a fantastic idea. This is the idea of a flat tax or a fair tax where everybody pays the same thing. So that's ultimately the way to go. What Obama did was nothing more than add to the problem, just like Biden and Harris's Inflation Reduction Act, which hasn't done anything except make things worse. Bill in Myrtle Beach, thank you for your call. Let's see, Paul, Zanesville, Ohio, with seconds to go. Quickly, what's on your mind, brother?
Yes, sir. We have our second and third string quarterbacks in, okay? This is going to be funny. I have never seen an interview that's going to happen when you have, somebody's going to be president and vice president doing an interview together.
So you get to tag them in if you need help. Unbelievable. WHIZ, Paul, thank you for the call, brother. I appreciate it. Paul in Boise, sorry about that. I meant to get to you talking about election integrity. KBFI, shout out to you guys. Folks, hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.